Hi. Great. Guys, I want to make a quick note before I get into what we're going to talk about today. I see this coming up like a lot, and so I want to illustrate a point. So sometimes, like when we explain a drill, it's like something happens. I've noticed when you do a drill, like kind of without resistance, is people's instincts just like shut off. Okay. This is something I see happening a lot when people are practicing this, and so it's confusing people. But so I'm going to touch on this officially. Can I get you underneath me in half guard? So we talked about this idea. He has me in half guard. He's got the two hands on the elbow, and he elongates his back. And what I see a lot of people doing is this, right here, where they're like, okay, I'm smashing into my partner. Guys, remember how I made this point? For those of you that have been here, remember, and for those of you who haven't, I made this point that the whole idea of this half guard fight is that if he is on his side of the center line, he has all the advantages over here, and if he crosses over to my side of the center line, so he crosses over here, I have all the advantages. Yes? Okay? The reason for that is if he crosses over into my side of the center line, my whole body is designed to go in a straight line. So it's like it's really easy for me to start smashing him down and crushing. Okay? Here's the thing, guys. So get the two hands on the elbow. If I cross into his center line to be heavy, roll me to the right like a log. It's so easy for him to roll me. Okay? So we switch positions. And I'm not targeting anybody. This is just like I've seen this coming up a bunch. Is that if he's here, so you're saying you're on top of me, and if he crosses his head this way, it's like, guys, his weight is completely over. Look at him. He's rolling all over the place. Look at him go. Okay? So what doesn't make sense, if you were the person on top, if you're trying to actually pin this person, is to drive across that center line. You see what I'm saying? That would be bad. That would just get you rolled. Okay? What makes sense is, if I'm here, and he goes directly forward, and he's heavy. Now if I try to roll him, see his weight's all over here. This is actually hard to deal with. This is hard to sit up into. This, if I just get an underhook and I try to sit up, is going to be hard, right? This is what we talked about dealing with. If he pummels that underhook back onto me, boom, now I'm in a lot of trouble. This is why if he's doing that, so that's what makes this path the path of most efficiency, the most efficient path. But if you're drilling or if you're rolling with someone and they make that error of trying to drift over this way, it's like, guys, like literally just roll the person. Just roll them. Just roll them like a log, like a little log rolling down a hill into a stream, floating, little birds building a nest on that log. Yeah, frogs hopping. You see that meme where it was like someone's like, "What if frogs ran?" And there's like a picture of a frog running, like you have these little slaps on the ground. Anyway, so with that being said, today, does that make sense to everybody? Anybody have any questions about that? So we're gonna stop doing that, right? Thank you. Today, we're going to build off of the underhook half work that we did last week. Now, just to recap kind of the key principles, if I could get you over here. We established a couple things. One is we established that, once again, we're emphasizing, I'm always on my side of the center line. I am not allowed to have my head cross his head. If my head's crossed his head and he knows how to guillotine, Darce choke, everything, I'm in a lot of trouble. This is really bad. I mean, especially, gosh, if you incorporate striking too, if he can punch me, I'm really close to getting punched in the face. Like, it's right there. Okay, bless you. So I need to be able to look inside his ear. Good job. Okay, I'm out here. My foot, let's rotate this way, is kind of hooking his foot. You guys see that? I'm not like hooking it so tight that if he were to like mule kick back, I'm gonna hook and like let my ankle get snapped. I'll release. But it's just kind of a little anchor. And then this foot is planted. My foot is planted and not in flat so that if he drives into me, I can move. Right? Now our first launch, let's say your left, yep. Our first launch of attack, we have two main objectives. One is to pull his hip back, and two is to bring my head to his knee. See how that knee like lifts off of the floor? So rotate this way, please. Watch his left knee. I'm here. Boom, right? By doing that, that's going to enable me to spear this arm under like I'm holding a serving dish, and I want to get my elbow connected to the bottom of his shin. Does that make sense, y'all? So we worked on this last week. I'm here, boom, and I get here. Now, we established that if he, let's say we roll back a little bit, if he just puts his hands up, let's say you get up on your palms, as long as he's, I actually walk a little bit to the left, because we're going to get in that in a second. If he just posts his hands, it might be hard to roll him with my body, but my hips will turn his hips, and I will win this fight. But, however, Chase.
No.
Okay. However, what he can do to stifle that roll, if we establish that my hips should be able to turn him over, is if he walks his hands, Scooby-Doo style, in the line that I want to turn his hips over. So if I grab it again, we're here, I have my underhook, I go in, and he walks, yes. And now, I know, just like that to the right. Oh, sorry, thank you. Now, I can try to roll him all I want. He's over here. Does that make sense, guys? So this is the situation we're dealing with. So let's actually rotate a little bit. Now, we're going to use a movement, I like to call this flipping. Like flip, 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 flip. And what it looks like, let me get you off of me for a moment. This is what's going to lead us to our next sweep. The objective that I have here is to get myself deeper underneath his hips. His weight is all in his hands, so his hips should be kind of light. I want to get myself farther underneath of his hips, and essentially the way you might identify that is my head is going to get close to his hip bone. Okay? So I'm here, I have these grips, right? The mechanism that we're going to use, and this looks kind of silly when you do it without a person, like on top of you, but whatever. Some people might say it looks kind of silly when you do it with a person on top of you. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to think about like chopping my knees and hands up towards my shoulder, okay? As I shoot my butt towards my feet. I'm using the momentum I'm generating by this whip, which kind of like, if you notice how my hips come off of the ground just like a little bit, this makes me free, like kind of like mobile. So here, and kind of like just sort of walk down the mat this way. Hi guys. Right? You see what I'm saying? So I'm kind of like, see, it makes a little, that's why, yeah. I want to use this mechanism, so I'm kind of bumping with my arms and my knees to swoop myself underneath of their base. You got it again? So we're here. Boom. The barrel roll. He hand walks. Boom. So you guys see that? Okay? From here, let's rotate a little bit this way, please. From here, guys, see how his shin is like right in the crook of my elbow? I'm going to use that to feed that to my other arm. And I want my arm not behind his hips, but behind his thigh. And I want to grab his pinky toe. Specifically pinky toe knuckle. I do not want to grab his foot. Extend your leg straight, please. 100%. Son of a bitch. Extend your leg straight, please. 100%. We'll never win, okay? From here, what Mike is going to do is he doesn't want to fall over. So if I were to turn into him, he would not just like let himself roll, right? He would try to stabilize. So from here, let me go back. I've rolled him this way. I'm going to kind of like see how his knees are off the ground. I'm going to roll the opposite direction to allow the leg that's in the half guard to kind of touch to the floor. You guys see that? Does that make sense, y'all? So we go back. He's up on his hands. I roll back. I let his knee touch down. From here, the leg that's in the half guard, the one that's holding him is going to release as the other replaces. And I'm going to use that to allow myself to pull his heel up and chop out. Now, let's rotate this way, please. This is very important here, guys, because this is where I see a lot of people have trouble with this sweep. Is if all of my weight is on my right shoulder right now, and I try to get up and say you're heavy on me, coach, I can't get up. I'm stuck. Guys, my weight, so you can put the weight on me, is on my left shoulder. That's what allows me to hip up, and then I bring his butt to the floor. From here, hop over, collect, side control. Now, I'm going to demonstrate that a couple times. The real money in this sweep comes from the fact that when I dive under his hips, we talked about last week, which do I lead with? The barrel roll. Why? It generates the most momentum. Why does that matter? That's a great question, Kyle, and I'm glad you asked. If I can get all of his weight over to his hands and kind of log roll him that way, even if he defends, he's like, all this momentum's going one way and I just have to transfer it. So the way this transition usually fires in a live roll, let's do this. Let me get you back here, please. The way this transition usually works. And so you're ready to hand walk? Right, I'm in. It's like I take him one way, I hit the rubber band springs, whoosh, and it snaps back. You see what I'm saying? If I get stuck underneath, that's why all these little mechanics are very important. So we want to drill it a bunch of times, like from stillness. But the realistic way we're going to apply it is we go for that first sweep. And the second we feel this resistance, we're swinging back the other way, catching the toes, and coming up to our knees. Does that make sense, guys? If his weight stabilizes, that's when I gotta be mindful about the details and really like make sure like that I can get up to my knees. That's when it gets hard. But like if he's moving and I'm moving, like we're like, you know, log rolling kind of left and right, it's gonna be a lot easier to get up. So I'll do that one more time with you, Mike, and then I'll grab someone so you can see this. So going through it slow-mo. I'm here, I dove under, I pulled a hip, he hand walks towards my feet, right, exactly. From here, guys, I bump, I get low. If I don't do this, guys, go back. If I don't get low, trying to reach his foot, can you guys see my hands? Trying to reach his foot is very difficult. Once I get low, you see how like close to his foot I get? I use my shin, or my elbow rather, to feed. From here, you see how my elbow's keeping his knee in the air? You guys see that? I turn to guide his knee to the floor. He's already like destabilized. You guys, Mike, he's already got to resist quite strongly to not get tipped over. I transfer, and then as I'm coming up, I can pull his foot towards me as my shoulder gets heavy on his hips. Keep the foot. Take the sweep. So I'll do that one more time. I'll grab, might I grab you, bud? Sure, why not? So we're here in the half. Let's rotate a little bit this way, please. I go for the barrel roll. So don't straighten this leg up like in the scissors. If you straighten that leg out, please. Right. You don't have a base. So you would have to bend that knee to have a base. Right. So I'm here, boom, I'm here, right? So let's say, right, exactly, you walk your hands that way. Chopping, scooting. I transfer, I grab the pinky toe. Please extend your leg. It will not work. From here, I keep this elbow lifted, or this knee lifted, so I can transfer for his knee to touch down. Release and gobble. And my weight, you guys chase, my left shoulder is pressing into his belly. Yep. I hop to my knees and transfer to pass. Does that make sense, guys? Yep. Thank you, bud. Thank you. Let's partner up with that. 1, 2, 3.